welcome back to All Over the Place, the official podcast of Media Pub Live. I'm Eric Provoznik, your host, and back in the house, Mr. Marty Zamora.
Hey.
And also with Jim Culver.
Gentlemen.
Hey. And Christine with, as always, as well. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
And as you can tell, folks, from the backdrop, you can see behind everything that you saw to kick off the show, and behind Marty right now, and behind me over here, we got a little Midnight Oil, got some Talking Heads. Howard Jones is up there in that corner, and tonight's show is being sponsored by, even we are getting caught into the web. We are going to be talking tonight about Cold War era films, and to keep with the Barbenheimer theme, we are going to be doing one movie, our favorite movie, inspired by a toy. Before we get going, I want to make sure I send a shout out to Yasmin McGee with XYZ Promotions, your print and promo specialist. Make sure you head on over to xyzpromotions.com. XYZ Promotions, all your printing needs from A to XYZ. As always, thank you, Yasmin, for being a sponsor here on All Over the Place. And folks, again, we are inspired tonight. We got caught up in the craze, the Barbenheimer thing. No one here has seen Barbie, correct?
Nope.
No. Okay. But I have seen Oppenheimer. I know Christine saw Oppenheimer. We saw it in glorious 35 millimeter. Jim and Marty, have you guys gotten around to it yet? And if not, is it on your near horizon?
Not yet, but it's on my list.
Ditto.
Definitely recommend on the big screen. It's intense, but oh my God, great movie. And why that is the inspiration for Cold War movies at the end of it. Big spoiler alert. We know what happened. Of course, those are the two blasts that ended World War II in Japan, the atomic blast. But they mentioned in the movie that spoiler alert, we won VJ Day. Fast approaching here when this airs. But what they mentioned in the movie was those two blasts were kind of the unofficial start to the Cold War. So we're going to be talking about our favorite Cold War themed films. And we're going to go, as always, to our number one film expert here on All Over the Place. Jim, your number 3 or your number 2, however you want to order it.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'll go 3, 2, 1 here. So my number 3 is going to be the original Manchurian Candidate.
Ooh.
And a really, really awesome spy movie from the 60s. It's very darkly comic. It's twisty. It's intense. It's easily the best acting Frank Sinatra has ever done, and just an all around fantastic suspense thriller. It takes shots at both sides, but generally speaking, it knows who the bad guys are, and it's just a really wonderful movie.
Nice call, like that, and agree 100%. That would definitely be Old Blue Eye's greatest acting performance, no doubt. All right, Christine, I'm going to skip over to you now for your number 3 or 1 or however order you want to go.
Well, I'm going to make this super easy because that's my number 3 movie as well.
Hey,
and I got to
say that, right out the gate.
Yeah, and I got to say that, and I was born in the 70s. Definitely Cold War times, but that was one of the first old movies that I saw, besides for like, The Wizard of Oz, or whatever other movie you want to mention. That was one of the first old movies that I saw and just was captivated by it. Absolutely captivated, and just fascinated by the subject matter, and it was really, really great movie.
Excellent.
I agree. Fantastic.
All right, Marty, did you also name Manchurian Candidate your number 3, or
my number 3 is not Manchurian Candidate. My number 3, not a big stretch, Hunt for Red October. The best, worst Scottish, Russian, Soviet accent ever. I mean, that was terribly good. Emphasis on terrible. Not a good accent. Fantastic movie. I love it, love it, love it. And I can't even tell you why. Bunch of good acting, good supporting cast. Sean did his best at Russian. I'm American. It all sounded okay to me, really. What do I know from him?
Really? Do you want anybody besides Sean Connery delivering the awesome line, "Some things do not react well to bullets"?
Yes, that
That comes out of any other mouth. Who cares?
Yeah, it's a dumb line. It's a throwaway that you might not even notice.
But Alec Baldwin, and a lot of people say, and my dad's a big Clancy fan. He still to this day names Alec Baldwin his favorite Jack Ryan.
Oh, out of the park. I have an opinion about him, but he's a great actor.
He's a damn good actor. I mean, say what you will about him off screen. He brings a shit to the screen. When he's acting, he's the man.
Yes, he does. And I kind of rediscovered it when I met my wife because she loved Sean Connery, and she wanted to watch it one day, and then I remembered that I loved it. It was maybe 20 years ago or so. But great movie, great.
Jim, the film expert here. Where do you rank Alec Baldwin amongst the Jack Ryans?
I would say below Harrison Ford, but above what's his name, Chris Pine.
Okay.
And whoever's name is, the guy who played Jim on The Office. He's a really good Jack Ryan, but I would say the show is kind of not really in the same universe, so I would keep it out of that list. But yeah, so I would say, I would say so. I'd put Alec Baldwin at number 2. Young Alec Baldwin was really, really talented guy. It's kind of a shame what happened to him in his career, but yeah, he was really something else back then. And yeah, that is one of my absolute favorites as well. Not just a Cold War favorite, but an all-time favorite.
Nice.
And I'll say this about Connery's accent: his character is not supposed to be Russian. He's supposed to be a Lithuanian living in Russia. Yes. So theoretically, he could be speaking with a Lithuanian accent, which maybe sounds like Scottish.
I have no idea.
For those who forget, I mean, it's not at all in tune with tonight's topic, but Sean Connery was supposed to be a Spaniard with a Scottish accent in Highlander. It's Sean Connery. Who cares? He can say whatever he wants, however he wants.
Yes.
I mean, Christine, as our literary guru here, as that's a Tom Clancy adaptation, what's your take on the Jack Ryan character as played by Alec Baldwin compared to the other ones?
Oh, I haven't seen enough of them to really comment on that, but I'm a big Sean Connery fan. He's one of my ancestors.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm usually the one name dropping. Just saying. All right, good.
I mean, I don't know if we're related, but our families are from Scotland. So.
Oh, so you're going with cousins, brothers, nephews,
yeah,
uncles, fifth cousin.
Exactly.
And Marty, what happened to your background?
It was causing a bit of lag, so.
Okay, well, I do want to make I should have commented on it earlier, but now that it's gone, I'll actually make a comment. For those listening only, not watching when we'll eventually be up on YouTube, Marty had the Soviet flag and the U.S. flag in either corner. And one of the things that, our generation definitely understood, and our parents to a degree too, they were born roughly about that, or were young right after the bombs were dropped. And we lived under the threat of nuclear war. And all these movies came about during this time. And there was an anxiety to a large degree. And Marty and I were sporting our MTV shirts. And that was one of the things that you had that could help take your mind off of it. But there are also a lot of artists singing songs about that anxiety and the war that could happen at any time. And I think it gets lost. I know the Cold War went away in the 90s, but now things coming back. So who knows if we're going to get another onslaught of Cold War related films and songs.
I got to say, I mean, not to get all geopolitical, but I think in the climate we're in, I think we're closer to that Cold War sort of closeness to Armageddon. We're at least similar as we were in the 80s, yet the youth seems so blissfully unaware of all of it.
Yeah.
You ask about, what do you think is going on? What do you mean? What's going on? Oh, yeah, the Ukraine thing. Yeah, that's part of it. Oh, like they just don't have any concept of.
They're completely disassociated.
Yeah, it's really easy to just ignore all that. It was more a part of our culture at the time.
Yeah,
it was talked about. It was openly talked about, and then damn Ruskies and all that. So.
Well, since we're briefly into the geopolitical, I think that the deterrence that was used between the Soviet Union and the U.S. So, just one having a bigger stockpile than the other, just to make sure it's not going to happen. So no one wants to be the one to drop the big one. So and we had the crazies like Muammar Gaddafi running around, or Idi Amin, or not Idi Amin, who was it? Yasser Arafat,
Arafat.
who were threats to possibly acquire a nuclear bomb. Are we that closer to it now, or do you think the U.S. and Russia can still be the two biggest kids on the block, deterring the other from doing it? I don't know, but yeah, I'm definitely with you, Marty, in that there's this blissful ignorance going on when we may be closer than we were back in the 80s.
We might, because now we have, I think it's not as unattainable as it was back then. Now any idiot with enough backing and money could kind of covertly make his way into doing something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it doesn't take a big stockpile to make this happen. The ones we dropped in Japan were small, very small by comparison to what we have now. So it's definitely a thing, and good for the youth. They're blissfully unaware.
Truth.
I'm jealous.
Well, I'll cue up a little Gap Band, and you dropped a bomb on me. Although that wasn't about Cold War. At least I don't think so. But and we're going to switch back, taking away from the geopolitical now and going back to the movies that the topics on hand.
Sorry to bring it down.
Like Jim, I'm also going to go get a little dark, but one of the greatest dark comedies of all time with Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Care About the Bomb. Just Peter Sellers, multi-characters, of course, such a big influence on Eddie Murphy playing multiple characters. But that movie is just dark and funny, yet, being able to illustrate all of the anxieties about a bomb going off. So,
yep.
Yeah, that was real good.
And Claude Akins just riding that bomb in the end.
Yeah.
That's comedy, folks. Yeehaw, you damn right.
Yeah.
Well, that's my number 3. So, Jim,
by the way,
go ahead, Bertie.
The reference to that in Armageddon, Steve Buscemi.
Get off the nuclear warhead.
Precisely.
Love
I
that.
got to trust you guys on that one, because I saw Armageddon once, and that was enough for me.
I don't care how many people hated it.
I'm sorry, Jim. It's that damn Aerosmith song. You want to talk about a deterrent for me? That's worse than a nuclear bomb. That insipid song. But anyway, the movie itself.
I have that running through my head.
Good cheese. Good cheese, the movie. Bad cheese song. Diane Warren. Anyway,
if you cut the Aerosmith out of that movie, it's probably a half hour long. So I'll give you that one.
There you go. We need a montage. So, Jim, you're number 2.
My number 2. So I'm kind of having to reshuffle my list here, because two of my picks have already been taken by other people, but that's okay. So for my number 2, I'm going to go with something pretty obscure. A lot of folks probably haven't seen, but I really think it's deserves to be included on this list. It's a movie from the 60s in BBC called The War Game. It was aired on BBC television. It's documentary style, and it's about a fictional story of a nuclear bombing of England, and then it's like fake documentary footage of the aftermath. And it is absolutely brilliant and devastating, and it's easily one of the best made-for-TV films ever made. It's fantastic, and it's heartbreaking. But it's if you wanted to make a movie, I'm not an anti-war person, but if you wanted to make a movie about the folly of nuclear war, you could not do better than that. It's amazing. So it's the only movie of its kind on my list, but I really think it belongs on there. So that's
one more time. What's the title?
It's called The War Game. It's from I think mid 60s. I think 1965. It's a BBC movie, but if you ever get the chance to see it, it's really good. So,
a made for TV, and I'm going to jump out of order here. Sorry, Christine, I'm going to jump in because my number 2 is also a made for TV, The Day After, starring Jason Robards and small parts at the time for Steve Guttenberg, Amy Madigan. I'm trying to think who else, but that was one of the most watched TV things at the TV shows at the time. I remember rushing home from we were at my grandparents' house. We had the VCR set. We watched the end of it, and it was just one of those things that ABC aired, and it was before they wussed out with Blocking the Path of 9/11, that movie. But day after, it just showed very raw what would happen in the case of a nuclear war. And it actually directed by, and of course now I'll blank on his name, but the director from Star Trek II.
Go ahead, Jim.
Nicholas Meyer. Just remembered it. Nicholas Meyer. Thank you, Marty, for that little nudge there. It got me over there. So Nicholas Meyer directed it and said after ABC meddled too much, it'll never do it again. But man, that movie, it was talked about for days afterward at school, and there were a lot of schools that actually showed recorded. It was taped and shown in classrooms. And I don't know if any of you ever saw it in a classroom or caught it when it aired, but that movie was definitely of the era, and definitely
people were devastated after watching that movie. They were like, "Was it real? Was it fake?" Like
like a whole War of the Worlds thing, with Orson Welles kind of stuff,
and not really realizing that the question they're asking kind of answers itself. Well, it could be real. It's kind of the point.
Yep.
The point they were making in the movie, is look at this.
And I like that it got the Ronald Reagan stamp of approval at the time. So that was nice. All right. That's my number 2.
So I'm going to jump in on this one because you just took my second one with your first one. Dr. Strangelove is my second one. So, I love quirky movies, and Peter Sellers in 3 different roles in it. And it was just weird, but good.
In the words of the almighty Purple Yoda from Minnesota, Prince, joy and repetition tonight. Nothing wrong with that.
Purple Yoda.
That's right, Marty. I'll drop a Prince thing wherever I can. We're going to go to you now, Mr. Zamora, for your number 2.
I don't even, after that, what you just said, I can't. Top Gun or something. I don't know.
What?
Top Gun.
Or something?
He just threw the Purple Yoda from Minnesota.
I didn't say that. Eric said.
Ding dong over there.
I was like, what did I say?
Yeah. And sometimes you kill me, and I just. So yeah, Top Gun for obvious reasons. Early on, Tom Cruise, pretty boy, whatever. We found out, he can act. Wow, that's pretty cool. And that movie was just Americana. Like this was. There was the tongue-in-cheek, America, It
was just an advertisement for the Navy, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and a really good one.
It was a good one.
Really good one. I wanted to join the Navy for a half hour after the movie. But
I got to be good at math? No, never mind.
And it was, the Cold War stuff was, I don't want to call it subtle, but it wasn't the main focus of the movie. But it was kind of looking back at it now, a bit of a window back.
It's an undercurrent for sure, yeah.
That's how we lived. That's how things were back then. Just very turn the saturation up on life kind of thing. And everything was big and bold. And, we were high-fiving the shit out of each other. And just the way we lived back then, And, and then it was in the Cold War era. So, maybe that's a bit of commentary on how we dealt with living under that doom. We just turned it up to 11 and kept going,
We wanted to smack some Russians around. I'm sure some Russians wanted to smack us around. It was a good cathartic release, that movie. Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, and and the Russian part of it really, it was obviously we're the good guys. And
jingoism.
we're superior and all that. So, which I was great. I was totally fine with that. That was, again, turn up to 11, max saturation. That's how we lived. Yeah. That's why Rocky and a lot of these other movies work, because that's just the way things were.
I actually just rewatched that movie last night, believe it or not, with my family. I love it. It's one of my absolute favorites. But something that really struck me rewatching it was people are always going off about, this movie is so simple. It's so, jingoistic and, black and white and all that. But I mean, if you actually watch the movie, like underneath all that, it's about, it's about trauma It's about like PTSD. It's about people dying and having to carry on from that. It's about people's egos and how to learning how to manage them. Like people always talk about Tom Cruise's character being just kind of arrogant and cocky, but it's like, yeah, but it's like he screws everything up in that movie. Everything up until the last 15 minutes.
Yeah.
He learns to not be that way. So it's like if you actually watch the movie, it's about him overcoming those qualities.
Yeah,
it's a Tom Cruise movie in the 80s and 90s, so he's living in the shadow of a very successful father,
right?
Yeah,
or father figure.
Yeah,
daddy issues.
You're right. I mean, the whole entire movie, he makes a series of bad decisions, and it was all because of his ego.
Yeah,
everything. Trying to live up to a ghost, but it was all about his ego and being cocky and just wrong decision after wrong decision. And you're right. The last 10 minutes, he got it together and became the hero.
Yeah, So anyway, I could go off about that, but
All right, these are all awesome calls tonight, folks. So we're gonna wrap it up with our number one now, and going back to Jim for our number one Cold War era movie.
Okay, so before I do my number one, I'm just going to mention a couple of honorable mentions, if I could.
Yes.
I'm going to say Firefox.
Ooh, yeah,
super fun Clint Eastwood movie. And the other I'm going to mention is, of course, it's escaping me now. The Spy Who Loved Me.
Oh,
which was a personal favorite growing up. One of my favorite Bond movies. Just James Bond winning over the Russians with the pure power of his awesomeness. And I love that movie. Okay, so for my number one, I apologize if I'm stealing anybody else's, but you guys stole like two out of my three. So Red Dawn. Absolutely amazing movie.
To be perfectly honest, Jim, I would not be surprised if this is all of our number one.
It might be. So I'm just going to get there first because screw it.
Hey, that's the way we roll tonight, gang.
Not me. Right. Not me.
Oh, that's right. At least one of us will not have it. Yes.
It's kind of the ultimate Cold War comes home movie. It's of course wish fulfillment for any 80s kid growing up, thinking, what would I do if the commies came over the hill tomorrow? And I'm not even going to say a word about the remake because other than Chris Hemsworth, it sucked and completely missed the point. But yeah, it's absolute classic. John Milius, he was a brilliant writer who never got enough credit for how good a writer he was. Everyone kind of scoffed at his movies, but because they were kind of these big bombastic movies, but he wrote like a poet. With his dialogue and his writing. It was absolutely brilliant writing, and like almost nothing written today can touch the dialogue that he wrote in movies like Conan and Red Dawn. So
Teddy Roosevelt, for crying out loud. That's enough for me.
That's right. Yeah. Absolutely. So that's my pick.
All right, well, we're gonna go off kilter. There's gonna be no repetition on this one. Christine, you're number one.
Oh, I get to go now? And I get to name something nobody else has yet? Okay, so mine is a 1983, 81? I don't remember. Anyhow.
Three.
Is it 83? Okay.
Oh, I knew this ahead of time. I can help her out with this one, yes.
Yeah, so it's War Games with Matthew Broderick.
Oh, yeah.
So, of course, now, because of the whole AI thing now, and can computers actually accidentally cause World War III? Of course, in the movie, it happens because Matthew Broderick hacks into their, unknowingly hacks into their systems and almost accidentally causes World War III. But, who knows, right?
Well,
Matthew Broderick was playing quite the hacker back then between that and changing his grade in Ferris Bueller. That just
He was
I think it was from what he learned in doing War Games that he applied it in Ferris Bueller.
And
right. He didn't want nuclear winter. He just wanted, better attendance.
And of course, the Whopper. But you mentioned Matthew Broderick, of course, the star. But great supporting cast too with Ali Sheedy and the amazing Dabney Coleman.
Yes, Dabney Coleman.
If anybody could play a better asshole in the 80s, I challenge them to beat Dabney Coleman.
Oh, yeah. He was everywhere.
Billy Zabka. Hello.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay,
you can take that.
we have an adult asshole and a teen/young adult asshole.
If you're gonna go down that road, I would say James Spader was a pretty good asshole also.
Well, what
true.
about the Breakfast Club? Now there was an asshole.
True.
Mr. Vernon, yes. And that's the only character he played. And he made a whole career out of it after that.
Yeah.
Right.
See, folks, the 80s were awesome.
So
unrivaled.
Unrivaled,
that's right. Right back at you with
gloom
that
and
one.
gloom. All right, stop smiling, everybody.
Yes, Marty, you're number numero uno, or you're
I'm
honorable
on one, but I'm still on Christine's.
War Games.
War Games. So modernize that. What do we have going on now? AI. And we don't know where that's going to take us.
Right.
But one of the smartest guys in the world is like, we should be worried about this. And everybody goes, yeah, okay.
Probably.
But maybe, very plausible that it becomes sentient enough to realize that we're all just meat puppets and we aren't necessary. So it wouldn't be like a hacker or a mistake, but man, it kind of, there's some real similarities to modern times possibilities on that one.
Absolutely.
And with the current generation, once again, blissfully unaware. And
they're like, AI's awesome. It wrote my paper for me.
Go back and watch Skynet, man. Skynet's coming, man.
That's coming.
Yeah.
All right, so I brought it down. Is it my turn?
Yeah, yes. Absolutely, yes.
Bring it. Bring it right up. And I'm going to say Stripes.
Ooh, man, we are going left field. I'm liking this, though. Go and tell us why you're picking Stripes.
Number one, and it goes a little to that whole saturation turned all the way up thing. It was goofy and campy and funny while talking about this dumb but kind of serious situation with the motorhome going into the red district. It was dumb and very, very childish, and I loved every second of that movie. And it happened to be set in the Cold War era with some sort of Cold War type references.
Joe Flaherty as a Czechoslovakian border guard. Hell yeah!
Oh. Just
very convincing.
There's a joke right there that I'm rebuilding the gate. They were so full of so many dumb things that were hilarious. Just, so good. Love that movie. Wow, earthquake. I love that movie. And I figured I'd, end it on a happy note,
Well, I'm going to bring it back around, though, because we're my number one. And honorable mention is going to go to the first two Planet of the Apes movies, which had one nuclear strike off camera while he was circling there up in space, Charlton Heston's character. And then the second one where they actually drop another nuclear bomb to end that movie. And you did it to yourselves. And so I'm going to go with Planet of the Apes and the second one, Beneath the Planet of the Apes, as my honorable mentions. But my number one is the same as Jim's, Red Dawn. He perfectly encapsulated earlier. This has already been my number one patriotic film. It was the 80s, folks, and wish fulfillment got no better than yelling Wolverines and taking out some commies.
Heck yes.
Hell yeah.
William Smith, one of the great character actors of the time, the guy who actually studied Russian. He had, I believe, was a Russian major in college at UCLA, and the guy was he was your go-to for any Russian general at that time. And I'm going to throw some love out to our friend Jack Marino. William Smith also played a Russian in his Forgotten Heroes movie. So love you on that one, Jack, for bringing William Smith in. Red Dawn, that's my number one, absolutely. And enough said on that one.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. That's number one. But I knew you guys would pick number one, so I got number one.
It's another honorable mention for you. There you go.
I didn't want to have three of us have the same movie. So Strike seems fun, but Red Dawn is definitely the one for me.
There you go. Well, and that's part of that's the back end of the Barbenheimer theme. Now we're going to flip it around, have a little bit more fun, a little less heavy-handed. Well, perhaps, I don't know what everyone's favorite toy is, but to go with the Barbie aspect, we are going to pick our favorite toy-inspired movies. And Marty, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Well, an honorable mention I'll go with, and it was my lovely wife that pointed it out. Mars Attacks was a toy.
Playing cards.
Playing cards,
yeah.
62, I believe. So, they made a cool movie out of it. It's a bit of a stretch. It wasn't really a toy. But my toy to movie is none other, had to be for me, G.I. Joe. The movies were fun, but the G.I. Joe toy was the best toy ever. I love that thing.
Well, are we talking the taller one with the actual kung fu grip, or the Hasbro characters that came later in conjunction with the TV show and the comic books?
Yeah, those are fine too. But I'm a little older. I had the big giant ones.
Barely had some of those. Yep, military family. So yep,
with the kung fu grip and the buzzed haircut. He had a buddy. His buddy's name, I don't know.
Snake Eyes. I love Snake Eyes. So yeah, good call with G.I. Joe. I'm liking that.
I just absolutely played with that G.I. Joe endlessly. Had the little plastic boots you could pop on them, and I just love that thing. And there was an enemy. He was the Intruder. He was like this stocky, sort of bullet-headed, muscular guy, and his arms went like that when you pushed on his head. And
there's a recall, folks. I'm liking it.
And there was also a movie. The movie was fine.
Cobra.
I didn't dislike it, but it was fun.
Destro.
I got to say, Retaliation was way better than the first one.
Yeah,
Retaliation, by far the best G.I. Joe related movie.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Christine, up to you. Over to you.
Okay.
Whichever direction people are looking.
I was kind of hoping that you would go first because I kind of, thought of mine because of yours. But so mom of 3 boys, I got a lot of these. At one point had a ton of these in my house. And of course we were first in line when this movie came out, the Lego movie. Emmett and where we first met Batman in Lego form, who only travels in black or very, very dark gray. Yeah.
All right.
The movie was hilarious. Everything is awesome. Yes, it was such a great movie. I was giggling through the whole entire thing.
All right.
Movie.
Can't argue with that one. So Legos for Christine. Jim, over to you.
Okay. So for honorable mention, I'm just going to say the entire Transformers movie franchise are my honorable mentions. I put them in the good but not great category, but they are a lot of fun to watch.
They're entertaining for sure, yeah.
And since Christine brought up, what's that?
The cartoons came first.
I know the cartoons came first. We're talking about movies, though.
That's true. Yeah. There's a cartoon that inspired a toy that inspired a movie. You're right.
Exactly. A cartoon that inspired a Marvel spin-off comic book as well.
That too, yeah.
Yeah.
But since Christine brought up Lego movie, I have to also mention the Lego Batman movie, which I think is a real kick as well, as an honorable mention. Yeah. So, but my pick is going to be Toy Story 2, which I think is by far the best of the Toy Story movies, and includes a lot of the toys I grew up with as a kid in there. Obviously not the main characters, but a lot of the supporting characters are toys that I grew up with, and they're a lot of fun. And I would consider, honestly, Toy Story 2 to be more of a Barbie movie than the Barbie movie, at least based on what I've heard, because it has the actual Barbies and their actual personalities.
Yeah.
It integrates them into the story in a fun way, and without getting political about it. So, and a really delightful movie. It really goes deep into like what it means to be a toy in the storyline, and obviously all the metaphors that carries into the real world. But that is probably my favorite toy inspired movie.
Yeah, excellent. Love it.
There are no bad Toy Story movies, but Toy Story 2, yeah, I have to agree that was the best one.
It's like Empire.
Exactly, it's the Empire of Toy Story movies. I like that.
Well, since both of mine have been stolen now in either the pick or the honorable mention, and now, see, it all comes around. What goes around comes around here, folks. It's all right.
Right.
That's how we roll here. Because I'm going to pull an option because my first pick was, see, I've never seen the Lego movie.
Oh, we have to see it.
I love the Lego Batman movie. I thought that was hilarious, and just the stuff that they can do with that Lego Batman, awesome. That was my pick, but Jim that mentioned both of those. And so I'm going to pull an option on this one. I'm going to go with, it's a board game, Clue.
Clue.
Yeah. Good game, good movie.
Good game, and well adapted from the board game itself. They incorporated that nice. I mean, it's a silly film to a large degree. Didn't do well at the box office, but a new life in
cast.
Video and phenomenal cast. I mean, I don't even know where to begin between Tim Curry and Michael McKean and Martin Ball. Oh yeah, great stuff.
And I think throwing back to the game is, anytime you do something that's based on something, you should do your best to refer back to it as much as you can.
Yeah.
There's too many movies that are inspired by something, but that's it. They use the name and that they move on to make a movie. You got to put the stuff in there. Got to have the candlestick. You have to.
Yep. Absolutely.
Couldn't have said it better, Marty. And we're going to wrap up our favorite toy-inspired film. And we're going to pull another option here because Marty and I both have MTV shirts on, and we all know what a music goon I am. And I mentioned a few of these things up here earlier. We are going to go with our favorite Cold War related song from back in the day. And so I'm going to go back. We're going to start with you, Christine, on this one. Your favorite Cold War song?
Russians by Sting.
Because I hear the Russians love their children too.
Yes.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah. If they love their children too. Yeah.
Yeah. Great song.
Mm-hmm.
Great song. Man, I wish I'd picked that one. That was a really great song.
Well, Marty, what did you pick?
No. It's a guy.
You big fooler.
Make it funny. This song, you know me well enough to know this, that I'm not a big fan, but really like the song, and it's very poignant. Bob Dylan, Times They Are A-Changin'. Just
okay.
I'm not a big Dylan fan. He's a bit of a douche, but he wrote some good lyrics.
Good lyrics are good lyrics.
Yeah. And I kind of even like the melody and everything of that song. It's a good song among a bunch of ones that I'm not that crazy about.
And Jim, you're going to need to help me out on this one. Do you remember who did the version that they used at the start of the Watchmen movie?
That was the Bob Dylan version.
Oh no, but a different band sang it, I think.
Oh really? Oh, I didn't know that. It sounds just like him. I'm not sure who the band was then.
There's a way we could research that.
I'm pretty sure it was the OG.
Actually, come to think, yeah, there's another Bob Dylan song in that movie that someone covered. So yeah, but yeah, Dylan's at the beginning of that. Yeah, again,
right.
Versatile. Say what you will about the way the guy sings. The lyrics are just perfect for Cold War stuff. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Definitely.
My other Dylan song is, of course, "Man and Me" from Big Lebowski.
I'm glad you brought up Watchmen, though. Actually, that could have made my list too if I thought
it was close to being on mine. I love that movie.
Nice, yes. Well, Jim, over to you now for your Cold War song.
My pick is "Winds of Change" by Scorpions.
I like this guy.
Nice one.
Yeah, I came of age right when things were turning, and that song was just such an anthem for that period in my generation's life. And a beautiful song. Just really, I know it's been overplayed, but it's a beautiful song, and I love it.
I would whistle it, but it'd be out of key.
Yeah, just so much optimism for the future in the early '90s, and we had no idea what was coming, of course, but as far as other post-Cold War things, but yeah, absolutely love that one.
Yeah. Excellent call. And Marty, I kind of want to ask you to put your backdrop back up again before I announce my pick, because it couldn't be better for my pick which is a song by Frankie Goes to Hollywood. When two tribes go to war. That's my song. It's just, you got, I can't even remember which the Soviet leaders were going. It was like Andropov, Chernyenko before Khrushchev. I mean, not Khrushchev. Before, oh God, now why am I blanking? Gorbachev. And it was just boom, boom, boom. But at that time when that song came out, I believe it was a Chernyenko look-alike going up against Ronald Reagan in a wrestling match, and just two guys going at. And Frankie Goes to Hollywood just nailed the anxiety of the time. The two biggest kids on the block pushing each other around, and Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Two Tribes. That's my call for Cold War era song.
Excellent.
With a strong honorable mention to Bruce Coburn, If I Only Had a Rocket Launcher.
Yeah, love that pick.
So, well, there you have it, folks. There's our Barbenheimer episode. So we had our 3 Cold War movies, one toy inspired to throw it Barbie's way, and then Oppenheimer's way, and a Cold War song. Marty, Jim, Christine, thank you as always. I think that this show rocked, and it got us a little contemplative too. Generation Z, pay attention. You might get some good songs out of it.
All over the place, where the fun sanity never ends.